You want to get into HEMA? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Hey guys, Matteo here from Hectic HEMA. So you've seen amazing scenes from your favourite TV shows where there's these really cool guys and girls who are using swords and axes, spears and shields and bucklers, and you thought to yourself, I want to learn a little bit of that. And you know what? I don't blame you. That's exactly how loads of us started out training in HEMA, because we wanted to learn how to use a sword, because we saw some really cool stuff in movies, or we read about them in our favourite fantasy books. So where does HEMA come into this, and what exactly is HEMA? Well, HEMA stands for Historical European Martial Arts, and fundamentally it is the study of ancient fighting arts which have been found throughout the centuries, throughout the entirety of Europe. There is a difficulty with this though, when we're looking at learning how we're going to use a long sword or a rapier or something like that. Well, lots of these arts died out, or they evolved into something very, very different as they travelled down through the centuries, because fighting styles evolved. Armour developed, we had new weapons hitting the scene, fashion played an important part in weapon development, and all of this factors into the kind of manuscripts that we end up looking at as we look at HEMA. So, HEMA, the practice of historical European martial arts. Now, where do we find these martial arts if they've died out? Well, thankfully, they haven't died out completely. We have some incredible texts that we can look at which have been left to us by masters from history. We've got masters of longsword like Fiore, who's one of my personal favourites, and then we've got rapier masters like Fabrice or Capoferro or Vincentio Saviolo. We've got loads of different masters that we can look at who've left us with some pretty good texts that we can look at. And what we can do is, in HEMA, take these manuscripts and start learning and piecing together how these techniques were applied with various weapons, how they were used, how these martial artists might have moved. And then, after we've looked at the treatises, we move on to another stage. We bring them to life. Now, how do we do this? We do this through solo study and drilling, so it could be picking up your sword and looking at these various guards, stances, positions, and working through them slowly in your own time and trying to get a feel for them. You can break down the various plays, as we sometimes call them, or plates, where we see how the masters break down fighting in certain conditions or situations where one individual responds to the attacks and counters of another individual. And we can piece those together either by ourselves or preferably with a partner who's equally as enthusiastic about the practice of HEMA. And then after that, what happens after we've pieced it all together? Well, we pressure test it. We pressure test it in free fighting or sparring, which is one of the more enjoyable aspects of the art. Well, I won't say enjoyable. Lots of people have their favourite parts. I enjoy sparring. I think lots of HEMA practitioners enjoy sparring. And you know what? When you pick up a sword, inevitably you're going to want to pressure test it, because that's where you see whether the manuscripts and the techniques that you are practicing are really coming to life. So what is HEMA not? Because sometimes the lines get crossed between various disciplines, different practices, and sometimes people go, oh, HEMA, is that like reenactment? And the short answer is no. And there's nothing wrong with reenactment, it's pretty cool, and they do an amazing job, reenactors, when they kind of piece together history and battles and things like that. And lots of people who do HEMA also do reenactment, which is pretty cool. But it's not reenactment. HEMA is something very, very specific. We look at the historical texts of the masters of the past, we piece these martial arts systems together, and then we apply them practically in free fighting and in I guess you could say, in the gyms in which we work, in the training schools in which we work and we practice these techniques. Another thing, is it LARP? No, it's not LARP. LARP, live action role play, is something very, very specific, and that's lots of people enjoy LARPing and doing HEMA as well. Some people find that HEMA and LARPing go hand in hand. I can't speak from my own experience, but people seem to enjoy them both, but they are very different things. HEMA is specifically a martial art, or a practice of martial arts systems within. Now, the third thing that sometimes people ask about is something I think is really, really cool, and I have a really good friend who's really heavily involved in it over in the States, and they ask, is it Buhurt? What's Buhurt? People come to you and they say, historical European martial arts, HEMA, is that where you get on all the armour and you're trying to knock each other out? You know, I saw this fight from Russia where these two guys are knocking each other out in full plate mail armour. And no, it's not. It's not Buhurt. It's HEMA and Buhurt. I guess there's some kind of crossovers, and some people who do HEMA might do Buhurt, but Buhurt is its own discipline. And I will get one of my good friends on for an interview who is part of an amazing team which goes by the name of the New York Sentinels, or the Sentinels, and it's going to be absolutely brilliant to have Marco on talking about his passion with us. HEMA, like I said, is something very, very specific, and it doesn't kind of encapsulate that, though I'm sure there's some crossovers between people who train HEMA and also train Buhurt. What weapons can you use in HEMA? Well, if you can find it in a manuscript, you can pretty much learn it. If you can find something which is pointing towards the use of a weapon, and you can piece together the martial system with an instructor or with your friends or even by yourself, you're on to a winner. So if you like the look of the longsword, affectionately known in the meme community as the hero's weapon, you can learn the longsword. If you can find something on the rapier, you can learn the rapier, and there's a whole bundle of texts out there on the rapier. You can go to some of the oldest manuscripts we've got, which deal with arming sword and buckler, which we can talk about another time, and we will talk about another time when I get one of my friends who's really passionate to speak about just that topic there. If you want to learn a polearm or a spear, a halberd, something like that, you can piece it together. There's some stuff in Fiore's manuscripts on the use of polearms. I mean, there's even stuff in some of these manuscripts about battling on horseback, if you look at Fiore's texts, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. You need to get yourself a horse, and I don't have that kind of dollar on me. But I guess if you want to piece that back together, I'm sure you can. Basically, the world's your oyster. If you see a weapon you like, you can learn it. And it can go all the way from some of the earliest weapons like the buckler and the arming sword that we can find traces of, all the way to things like the small sword. There's just and the dueling sabre, Hutton's dueling sabre and things like that. The scope is so vast. So if there's a weapon you're passionate about, you can find a space to practice it in HEMA. So why get involved in HEMA? Well, you know what, if you're here and you're checking out this video and you're wondering what HEMA is, you've probably caught the bug, or you're starting to get that little itch in the back of your head saying, you know what, I really, really want to learn to swing a sword around properly. If that's the case, just try HEMA. There's loads of other benefits. I could talk about the communities which you'll find yourself in, the friends you'll make, the health benefits, and a whole host of other things. But fundamentally, what it comes down to is, do you want to learn to swing a sword or some other weapon around and do it properly? And does that give you a feeling of joy in you when you think about learning a style and mastering it? If you're starting to feel like that, that's reason enough. Now, if you're interested in starting your HEMA journey, or you're just getting back into it, why not like and subscribe and join our channel? We're going to be bringing you gear reviews, training tips, talks about manuscripts and breaking down the various masters that we find in HEMA. And we're going to be talking about just helping you through your HEMA journey, because we want this hobby to grow we want our community to grow, and we want it to be a great, healthy, encouraging place where new people can come in and fall in love with the art. So if it sounds like something that you're into, join us. We'll guide you along the way as best as we can. And until then, like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Oh yeah, guys, and if I didn't make it clear enough, if you're going to start swinging pieces of steel around, do it safely.